Okay.
All right, so we're recording now.
Excellent.
Um, Stu, when we have a live recording or a long recording like this, we're going to break it into three parts, beginning, middle, and end. And that way it'll kind of tell us a story about what's going on. Just a quick review. We're looking at what's called a Z-score report. A z-score
Yep.
is a statistical method, lets us measure things like standard deviation. How far away from normal is something? So we have a scale
Okay.
down here that goes from -3 to +3. And those are standard deviations. Here in the middle where it's green or any place that we see green on the report would indicate that's normal EEG activity. If it's yellow or orange, it's going to be 2 standard deviations above normal. Red is going to be 3. Other end of the scale, light blue is 2 standard deviations below normal, and dark blue is 3. Any question on the scale before we talk about what it all means?
No, I understand it. Makes sense.
All right. So your brain is producing all these frequencies all the time. So we're going to break them up into groups and talk about them. So 1, 2, and 3, this group we call delta. And these frequencies are how you get into your meditation. Now, some people will use delta, and some people will use theta. Some people will use a combination of delta and theta because you get a little bit of 4 hertz here, theta, and some people will use alpha. We don't really know why the brain picks one method or another. One method doesn't seem to have an advantage over the others. This is just the way your brain has decided to do it.
Okay.
Also in the delta, we see a little bit of blue up here. This is your connection to the field. And when we examine theta 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8, the blue that we see here in 6, 7, and 8 is creating a gateway from your subconscious. So now you have information from the field and from your subconscious, but you're not going to be consciously aware of it unless you have a higher, faster frequency, which is usually an alpha. Alpha is 9, 10, 11, and 12. So this activity here at 11 and the green here at 12, this is allowing that information from the field and from your subconscious to come into your conscious awareness. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
Also in alpha, 9 and 10 hertz, this is allowing you to be present in the moment. So that's different than the next group, 13, 14, and 15. This is what we call SMR, your sensory motor rhythm. You see little bits of blue in here, and that's allowing you to have an internal focus, but you also have a lot of green, which means that the uh, part of the time you are having an external focus. What that means is that an external focus is people who are focusing on things going on around them, like the room is too cold, my nose itches, people are talking too much. So you're kind of straddling that line there, being aware of what's happening on around you, but at the same time, um, being able to have somewhat of an inner focus um, here in the
Do
beginning.
you know at what time these scores were taken? Because when I had this the brain mapping done, the meditation had started, and um, they had to play with one of the things on the attachments to my head.
Well, it would be a compilation of that time period. So if it was a 2 hour recording, we would break that recording into thirds. And so this will be a compilation of the entire 1/3 of time. And so if they were playing with the electrodes on your head, that would constitute what we call artifact, and it would not be uh, part of the recording. It would be rejected when they go through and they select the various areas that they're going to use. They would not use that part.
Okay.
So we have a rating that lets us see at the beginning uh, what the reliability and the validity is. And so the number, anything over 0.90 is considered good. Um, as a general rule, we see in the recordings the sections that we take are going to be at 0.98 or 0.99. So we know that they're very clean recordings that we're basing this information on.
Good.
Now, when we get down here to the beta, um, it, from 16 all the way through 30, we can see a little bit of blue in here, and even when you get down here, the dynamics change a little bit from 21 on. But let's talk about this here. We see this beginning to form, and there's this area that we call F8 over here, and this is FZ, and this is FP1, creating this angular uh, activity that's about 2.5 standard deviations above normal. So here at F7, this deals with meaning construction. What does this mean? What's going on? Up here at FP1 deals with some emotional content. You know, how do I feel about what I'm experiencing? And then over here at F8 is also part of that emotional content, but it's dealing with selective and sustained attention, brain's deciding what it's going to focus on. But then when we go from 21 hertz on up, we see this pattern begin to change. And so about 24 hertz, we start to see this whole other component going on down here that looks a lot like mind chatter. Did that make sense to you?
Sure.
That there's your brain is just busy chattering away?
Yeah, it's doing things. Yeah, got it.
Yeah. So let's go to the middle of your meditation. We see the same markers where this is how you get into your meditation, the gateway from your subconscious, being present in the moment. Down here, using 11 hertz, a little bit at 12, to bring that information into your conscious awareness. And then 13, 14, and 15, you see how we have a lot more blue in here than, so you're getting more of that inward focus. And now the blue down here is helping to minimize some of that mind chatter that's going on. So you don't have as much, but you still have a little bit of it happening there.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And we get to the end of your meditation here, and again see a lot of the same markers that are going on that I just pointed out. And then when we get to the upper frequency, now your mind chatters back, and you've got this very strong component at FP2 that deals with emotion. So you may be having some experience there in this meditation that just has a lot of meaning and emotion for you.
Yeah, I did at the end of it. It was very, that original feeling of compassion, or like
Mm-hmm.
tearing, like welling up with compassion, that kind of feeling.
Yeah. Also, I see this down here deals with visualization. Were you getting some strong visual images with that?
Usually, I can't say for sure on the end of the meditation, it shifted. I just remember feeling very emotional. I had some tears moving through through my closed eyes, and I felt at that point there probably was a high level of imagery in my head because there was a lot going on.
Yeah.
I'm not,
Yeah.
can't remember exactly what I was seeing, but it was.
But you
feeling.
can tell a difference that things had shifted because we go back up here. Um, this is clearly mind chatter. Then you begin to get control over that mind chatter. And then towards the end, now we see that you're actually having an experience there rather than
Mhm.
busy mind chatter going on. So, from what you described, that all makes a great deal of sense to what I'm seeing there. Let's
Okay.
take a look at your coherence because this adds a whole nother level of understanding to what's happening. So top row we have delta, theta, alpha, and beta. Bottom row is all beta activity in different frequency groups. So the first thing that jumps out at me, well, let me back up here and explain. The red is external processing and blue is more of an internal process. So the thing that really jumps out here is in delta and theta, the blue that we see here is a pattern that I see very often with people who are highly intuitive. Would you consider yourself intuitive?
Yeah. Well,
Okay.
I feel I've been practicing qigong and energy work for 20 years, so that's a
Yeah.
routine in my life. I don't think of it too often, but yes, I definitely am.
Yeah.
Uh,
And there are a number of parts to that. Let me explain them. Here on the
okay.
left side, this is what we would call clairsentient.
Okay.
Where you're connected to the field, you know things, but you don't really know how you know them, but they turn out to be true.
True.
On the right side, this is what we call empathic. So you have the ability to tap into other people's emotions and know what's going on with them.
Well, that explains a lot about my life, dude. Thanks.
Now,
Good.
uh, there's this globalization in both delta and theta in what we would identify as intellectual intuition. And there are three main parts that go along with what intellectual intuition means. And the first one is what we call insight intuition. Down in the subcortical part of our brain, the subconscious part, we have things that we've learned and things maybe we don't even remember that we learned. But the brain begins to put those together and uh, connect them so that things that we would recognize as familiar begin to happen. So we have intuitive insight with familiarity, or things that we call insight. Okay. The
Hmm.
second part of intellectual intuition deals with energetic sensitivity. So everything has electromagnetic centers uh, in the universe. And they're in this process of um, energetic sensitivity. There are three electromagnetic centers in the body that are very important in this process. One is the electromagnetic centers around the chakras. So as you manipulate that energy and pull it up through the chakra centers and align that energy and allow it to work with your body, that's a very important part of this. The second electromagnetic center is the electromagnetic center around the heart, and the third one is the electromagnetic center around the brain. When those are aligned, you're creating heart and brain coherence. So when all three of those are aligned, it's like the difference between a flashlight beam and a laser beam. And so
Hmm.
uh, that becomes part of how we communicate, not only within ourselves and interpret that information, but how we connect with everything around us. Um, and that's what we call energetic sensitivity. The third element of this uh, deals with what we call non-local intuition, and this is what the entire universe is made up of, where there's no space, no time, everything is happening simultaneously. But we experience things like precognition. We know something's going to happen before it happens. And so
Mm-hmm.
for you, you have this globalized element, the blue, and that's what constitutes this intellectual intuition. So you have all three of those basic elements, and you're probably more aware of it sometimes than other times. We'll talk more about that here in a minute. But would that make sense for you?
In my daily life, it makes sense, and I could tell you lots of stories, but I'll spare you. And we're going to talk about important things, but absolutely, it makes sense.
All right, good. So now you have scientific evidence that you're not only intuitive, but highly intuitive.
Oh, good.
All right, so we go to the middle of your meditation, we see the same things going on here, and not anything too different. The the stuff that we see out here, the red, is that external information that you're processing, things that are coming in through the field, and you're just cognitively processing it.
Mm-hmm.
We get to the end of the meditation. Now we see less blue in here, but that doesn't mean that you have less intuition. It just means you're actually being more efficient in the use of that energy.
Hmm.
Okay, so let's go to your amplitudes because this adds another level of understanding for you. Um, you see that we have both red and blue here, and particularly in delta and theta, it's really important to have red and blue. Uh, think of amplitude like volume on a radio, where the red is the volume is turned up loud, and the blue is the volume is turned down low. So
Mm-hmm.
the reason it's important to have both red and blue in your amplitudes is it creates a level of discernment for your ability to tell the difference between your intellectual thoughts and your intuition. For
Mm-hmm.
example, the red, you might be getting I statements. I should do this. I should say that. That's your intellect talking. The
Mm-hmm.
blue, where the volume is turned down low, you're getting that still small voice giving you statements. You should do this. You should say that. That's guidance
Okay.
from your intuition. So when you have both red and blue, and if you're paying attention, then you can tell the difference between your intellectual thoughts and guidance from your intuition. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does.
Yeah. Um, we see the same pattern here in the middle of your meditation. So what we're seeing now in all of these different patterns and markers is that you're very consistent. This isn't a switch that you turn on or off. This is who you are, and you're this way all the time. Okay. So we get to the
Mm-hmm.
end of meditation, we're still seeing the same markers, the same consistency. So you live in a very tapped in, tuned in kind of situation in your daily life.
Mm-hmm.
Let's go to down here. How long did it take you to get into a sustained meditative state? So, 2 minutes and 7 seconds is a little longer than normal. So, you're very deliberate in how you do this. International averages run about a minute and a half. But this becomes pretty significant when you think about here you are in an unfamiliar environment with this contraption on your head, and we've asked you to meditate. So you're able to get into that, and your other markers show a great deal of consistency. So when you're at home without that paraphernalia on your head meditating, you're probably under a minute and a half in that range there. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
so um, uh, you've got some good numbers going, some good uh, markers. You go back up here to your Z scores. This is usually the place where people ask me, what could I do different? What could I do better? So there's a couple of things I'm going to throw out here because as far as the mechanics of meditation go, we know that you have that down solid. You don't have to worry about, am I doing it right? We know that you're doing it correctly and that you're also um, uh, doing it at a very high level. So the two things that I would throw out, and you may be doing these things already, has to do with first implementing the principle of allowing, and that is being able to, when you have a desire, you have an intention in your meditation, putting it out there and then getting out of your own way and allowing it to come to you. However, what a lot of people end up with is subconscious belief or a notion about I have to do something in order to get something. And so they start using that desire or that intention like a mantra. I want this, I want this, I want this. It's been 2 weeks, nothing's happening. What's going on? And so they begin to fragment the energy. And the energy I'm talking about is the energy around the momentum that allows it to manifest. So when they fragment the energy, it slows down or stops the very thing that they're trying to create. If that makes sense.
Sure.
Now, the second part of this deals with surrender. Now, that doesn't mean surrender your will or surrender your intention or surrender your desire. This is more about a state of being than a state of doing. It's important that we balance our being and doing, but if you have that intention or that desire and you put that out there, and then you're um, begin to dimensionalize it. So using all of your senses, try to make it as real as possible. What does it look like? What would it feel like if I had this? How would I feel in what would I do with it? Is it a
Mm-hmm.
person, a place, a thing? Does it have a color, a texture? What does it look like from the top, the bottom, the side? And as you do that, uh, you are drawing it to you instead of trying to make it into something. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Now, a lot of people will say, you need to align your frequencies, you need to align your energy in order to create stuff, but they don't ever tell you how to do that, do they?
True.
I'm going to tell you how.
Okay.
So, over the last 4 years, as we've been researching a lot of this stuff, as well as other research projects that we've been involved in, that has become very apparent that those three electromagnetic centers that we talked about are very, very important. So before you go into your meditation, if you will align your energies in this way, that first of all, maybe do 5 or 6 of the breathing techniques where you pull the energy up through the energy centers. You know what I'm talking
Mm-hmm.
about, right?
Yeah.
And allow that energy to align and to work in harmony with your body. Then the other is uh, aligning your heart and brain electromagnetic centers to create heart and brain coherence. When all
Mm-hmm.
three of those are aligned, it is like the difference between the flashlight beam and the laser beam. And then when you go into your meditation, you are using that energy around the momentum that allows it to manifest. And so you're using that laser like energy to draw it to you rather than trying to make it into something and using the laws of the universe to work for you.
Mm-hmm.
So it's about spending a few minutes. Are you familiar with HeartMath?
Not as familiar as I am with Dr. Joe's work, but yeah, relatively.
Yeah, HeartMath has a device that you can use, and we are no longer doing the Dr. Joe events. I'm a certified trainer for HeartMath, and we're creating our own workshops in teaching people how to create more heart and brain coherence and how to use these devices to create what's called more resilience or your capacity to deal with stress challenges and adversity in your life and to use these 5 different techniques in different situations where you could be in a stressful meeting and use this technique, and people wouldn't even know that you're using the technique. But the device will help you build your capacity, like going to the gym and lifting weights kind of thing. Um,
Yep.
but if you were to going back to what to do before you go into your meditation, so you do 5 or 6 of those breathing exercises, and then if you do some additional breathing and you're breathing in slower and longer than you normally would, but put your focus on your heart. So it's
Okay.
like your heart, you're breathing in and out through your heart. And
The
that's
center of my chest or the physical.
yeah, just in your chest area around the heart. So
Okay.
as you do that, it's called heart focused breathing, and that technique, along with the pulling the energy up through the energy centers, is how you align your energy and allow that those frequencies to get in alignment before you go into your meditation. So
Mm-hmm.
you can spend 5 minutes doing that, then go into your meditation and do whatever it is that you're going to do. But now the energies are aligned. You can get more information about the heart and brain coherence on our website, thoughtgenius.com. And on
Mm-hmm.
the home page, down towards the bottom, there are a couple of videos that were produced by HeartMath that will give you some insight to that. There's also a tab on the website that says HeartMath that has some other videos that will help you understand that. And then, of course, we're in the process of uh, starting to do some 3-day workshop in teaching people how to use these devices and to um, create this element in their daily living. So you can get some information there. Any other questions that you have for me?
Um, well, most of all, I am working with a guy named Garnet Dupree who invented something called the Neurolight about 7 months ago.
Yeah,
And
I'm
so,
familiar with it. Mm-hmm.
right. And so, we talk a lot about capacity and building capacity in, for these, Dr. Joe would say new elevated emotions or these types of things. And so as you're talking, um, I was thinking, is this HeartMath tool similar to the light and sound compositions to build capacity, or what kind of tool is it?
Well, yes, it does it in a little bit different manner. That when you have light and sound and you're using photic stimulation, it's affecting the thalamus of the brain, and you're basically telling the thalamus, see this, do this. And so it is coordinating the light and the sound to help develop new neural pathways. So for many years, I've worked with um, various devices, and right now I'm engaged in a project with the Deepak Chopra Foundation in the device that they have, in that we are measuring brain waves while they are using light and sound and guided meditation. And so there's a headband that people would wear to measure their brain waves, and that we can do brain mapping, much like what you have here during meditation, and get more feedback and information from doing that. So yeah, the photic stimulation that you're using can be quite valuable.
Cool. So as as you talked about the intuitive piece for me, that's something that's not surprising. But you had pointed out that there was the soft, smaller voice, and those are generally you statements. Is that correct?
Yes. Uh huh.
Okay.
So,
So I've
so
got that down.
Yeah, if you're not certain as to is that my intellect talking or am I dealing with guidance from my intuition, just kind of take a step back and notice, are they you statements or I statements? What are you
Okay.
getting? And then it's very easy to tell, so it doesn't take very long for a person um, to really tell the difference between intuition and intellectual thought. You probably
I
already know
get it.
how to do that. You just haven't brought it into your conscious awareness in that way.
I haven't used those words. The words I use is knowing is guidance. So um, it's not a necessarily a voice. It's actually confidence. It's a high level of
Right. Yeah. So
confidence and not and knowing.
yeah. And so you're absolutely right in how you're looking at that because it is a higher state of consciousness. And so you have enough awareness that, and that's again a great part of what this 11 hertz is doing. It is creating that level of awareness so that it is in your conscious awareness. And a lot of people don't have that level of awareness in a higher state of consciousness. So kind of tell people that, if you pay attention to I statements or you statements, it's easier for them to understand, but you're way beyond that.
Okay. And then as far as like as you're looking at these brain maps, the physical sensation of energy is something that's I feel is always present with me, and in particular with other individuals, like a shift in a room, but it's kind of exaggerated in a sense where, especially when I was younger, it might be confusing or actually cause me frustration or anger, these types of things, like overly sensitive.
Mm-hmm.
And so as you look at what's going on in my brain, I can remember that meditation that, um, everything towards the end had moved into that, like, it's just it's a feeling of warmth, like throughout my body. And is there any evidence in these brain scans that that sensation is actually an energetic sensation, or is it that
Yeah, there is.
my
That's really what all of this is. So you have this is your sensory motor strip right across here, and you see you've got a lot of activity there, particularly at this location that we call C3. Um,
Mhm.
and so that's that feeling that you're talking about. And some people will describe it like vibration that they feel. Sometimes it comes in waves. And I just call it fluid intelligence because I don't know what else to call it when I experience it. And it's just, things, you don't really know where it comes from. You just know. And it
Yeah,
has that
absolutely.
sensual feeling that you're talking about. For me, it is all I can describe it as is a vibration. So it comes in waves, and that information comes in from the field. You remember my discussions about the thalamic gate?
Yeah.
So let me pull that graphic up here, and I got too many things open. So down here in the thalamus, where one of the jobs is it regulates all the frequencies, and this is the subcortex of the brain, our unconscious part, and this is the thinking part, the cortex. So at the top
Mhm.
center of the thalamus, there are these set of what we call reticular cells. And the function of a reticular cells is to bind to another organ to allow other cells to be part of that. And so it allows these axonal columnar cells to go from the top of the thalamus up through the subcortex into the cortex and comes out at the top center of the head. And so the information from the field that we call oscillation is coming down through these axonal columnar cells into the thalamus, and when it gets down in here, it becomes resonation. So it begins to resonate that energy and information into the cells in the body, and the cells communicate with each other in that way. So when you have a thought and emotion, it also goes up this direction and out into the field. So the resonation that you're creating in your body, then when it gets to the top center of your head, the chakra, then it gets out into the field as oscillation. And so that's how the interaction, that's the mechanism that takes place.
Hmm. Okay.
Does that answer your
This
question?
is awesome. Yeah. Well, in a way that I've never had it answered before, so that's very nice. Okay, cool. So lastly, if you're speaking in terms of energy and oscillation, and from your work, what have you? How is the brain interpreting this and then turning it into information?
Well, that's kind of what I just explained here. So when you have oscillation, you have frequency and you have vibration that's going on. That is energy and information, and so it comes down in through this mechanism, and then it becomes resonation because it starts to resonate with the cells of the body, and that's how it gets communicated. And vice versa, that when you have a thought, you have an emotion, or this all started because I want to know how prayer works.
Mm-hmm.
That when you do that, what happens? So that thought, that emotion, that questioning, or whatever it is, goes from the thalamus. It is that resonating energy that we are creating in the body, and then comes up through here and interacts with the energy outside that we call oscillation. So that's the interaction with the unified field that goes on. And so this is just the transduction mechanism for us to be aware of thoughts, feelings, emotions, what we do. This is how we create our reality in terms of what we think about. So when we look at the function of unified physics, this is how it works.
Fascinating. Okay. Well, it gives me some stuff to think about analytically, and definitely different than I thought it was going to be. I didn't think anything of that meditation in particular because it was pretty familiar to me, those sensations and that kind of thing. But it's nice to validate with some graphs that the evidence of my life has been validation enough, but it is cool to see that there is somebody with a scientific basis to explain why my life is the way it is.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
thank you for that.
Yeah. So there's really nothing getting in your way, Jeff, about where you want to go. It just depends on how deep down the rabbit hole you want to go. And now that you understand how to more specifically apply that to a desire or an intention, how to maybe interpret that a little bit better, you can put those key elements to work for you, and allow those laws of the universe to work for you.
I like it. Okay. All right. Well, I guess I'll also look into that HeartMath teaching. That's interesting to me. And I've been a big fan of neuroplasticity. Self-directed neuroplasticity is my real passion right now. It's all I talk about. So I'm always interested in learning something new.
Yeah, and I think that's kind of where we are in the world is when you say self-directed, people are looking for self-regulating devices and why things like Fitbit are so popular. People want to be more in control of those things. And we're working on a device that we're getting pretty close to having it ready for market to where people can do brain mapping and brain training through their smartphone, their tablet, or their computer anywhere in the world. And get these reports back. So up until now, unless you came to a Dr. Joe event or came to my clinic, there's or somebody else's that did brain mapping, there's no way to get a map. So we're putting all of this knowledge into practical application, and we're really making some great strides with the things that we're doing with the Deepak Chopra Foundation. So,
Excellent.
Yeah, making some of this stuff more readily available to people like yourself who are interested in this transformational journey and have the awareness and are awakened enough to want to do something about it.
Yeah, it's exciting. It's good.
All right.
All right, Dr. Fannin, sounds great. And, I guess Sarah's up next, so you'll be talking to her, and then her and I will get to discuss our results later today.
All right. You take care and keep up the good work.
I appreciate your time. Thanks.
All right. Bye now.